So Bob knows we're here.
So how many, which one were you with 30 years? Oh, wow. Charles. What was your job in Anderson?
When I got out of graduate school, I was the director of Anderson County Planning Board.
Oh, okay.
Anderson County Water and Sewer. But then there was a lot of shady stuff. Is this one? So I thought that's the thing. You know, we're thinking out of the people saying,
Yeah.
some of that's right next to Charleston.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here on the map.
We ready?
That place is nice.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
getting
Yeah, it is just
Within,
Good.
I am,
kind of up 26.
Enjoy it.
you enjoy it.
Well,
Eric, how are you? Is that all you said?
yeah.
I like you got a smile on your face.
What is Walter? Where was the Murdoch thing again? That was, well, it is Walterboro. Okay.
No, we never.
Okay. Yeah. You remember you said that
Yes, we just did that in the work.
she was?
Bob, I want to do a sound check. Can you hear me?
You mean the mom? The mom.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you for being with us. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Highlands Town Board of Commissioners for December 14th, 2023. This is a special night where we'll be seeing changes, the changing of the guard, so to speak. And it's, to me, kind of a time of celebration for all the service that people have done and the service that people have committed to in the future. So with that, I would ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Would you now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and be seated. As always, our first item of business on our agenda will be the public comment period. So if anyone would like to make a public comment tonight, I'm going to open up the podium. Let me remind you, though, we will also be having a public hearing on lighting in the business district. So if you want to make a comment about that, I would encourage you to save those comments until we have the public comment period at the public hearing. But without further ado, if anyone would like to make a public comment, I'd invite you to come up to the podium, state your name, and please be judicious with your time. But I'm going to now open up the podium for any public comment. Well, hearing that there seems to be no public comment tonight, we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is to review and approve the agenda. Do I have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve? Okay, in a second. All right. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. All right. The next item would be the approval of the November 16th regular meeting minutes. Do we have any changes, corrections, or clarifications to those minutes?
Move to approve as presented.
Second. Very good. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. The next item would be, after the minutes, would be the report, starting with the mayor. So let me go over a couple of items that I would like to cover tonight. I did call recently for feedback concerning any issues that folks have about the mayor or the board not supporting the business community in Highlands. I've gotten feedback from that. I am going to tabulate that, and beginning at the new year, I will call a meeting where we can have a community meeting or a forum where we can sit down and talk about, issues related to supporting businesses in Highlands. So I continue to encourage anyone who would like to give me feedback, please just send me an email at mayor@highlandsnc.org, or my phone number is always open, 828-506-3138. Or you can go to my website, askmayorpat.com. The other thing, we're going into the winter season where we might have power outages due to snow and inclement weather. And I just want to reinforce that we want to encourage people not to call 911 when we have a power outage. We do now have a system in place for after hours. If someone calls town hall, there's a prompt system to where we will have a staff person on duty that will dispatch the appropriate crews in that type of situation. And then finally, I want to express my appreciation to all the citizens of Highlands for their cooperation in the recent states of emergency we had concerning extreme drought that was challenging our water resources and also possibly creating very dangerous fire conditions. And everyone was very cooperative, except for a few people that thought that the burning ban didn't apply to them. And I want to express my appreciation to our code enforcement, our police department, and our fire department, because there were certain critical days where they were all working together. I went over to the fire department one day and they had their truck, the door open, and they were just standing by the truck. They were ready to respond. And in fact, they were having to respond to situations where people in the fire district thought that they could burn, debris and leaves and so forth. So I appreciate all the efforts that our town crews and staff did, and also to the citizens that cooperated with that situation. The good news, we've got rain that has fallen, and we've got more coming hopefully this weekend, and we're gradually pulling out of that emergency situation. So that's all that I have. So I would like to now turn it over to the commissioners for any updates or reports that they might have. Everybody's good? If that's the case, I'll then ask our town manager if he has any information that he needs to convey.
Just to give an update on some of our projects we have ongoing, the water line replacement here on Poplar Street, got a final inspection today on that. It's complete. That's a 6-inch water line with fire protection on it. Gibson Street water and sewer is well underway. They had a lot of rock to blast out of there before they could start laying the lines in. Also down on Dog Mountain, you guys voted to continue forward with the design. I know they've been down there surveying and marking the road up. We had someone from down there questioning today what that is for. That is the surveying, which is the first step in the design phase. So they're underway with that. So hopefully that will take place next couple of months when we get that submitted into the state. So also town hall will be closed on December 25th and 26th, which is Monday and Tuesday, as well as January 1st for the Christmas holiday and the New Year's. And just a reminder, no trash pickup on Christmas Day.
Okay, thank you very much. I was going to ask you that because I get that question a lot too. So thank you. All right, our next item, number 7, consent agenda. Do we have any comments or questions concerning the content presented in the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Thank you very much. Our next item under old business would be item number 8, public hearing, UDO amendment, section 6.5.3, exterior commercial lighting. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing? A second, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Thank you
Aye.
very much. Our next item, B, will be staff comments and recommendations. Mr. Michael Mathis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So over a year ago, the Land Use Committee met to discuss some issues involving exterior commercial lighting. Specifically, the committee wanted more restrictions to curb the nuisance caused by string or accent lighting. These concerns were sent to the Town of Highlands Planning Board, which drafted the proposed UDO amendments. The planning board and staff believe the proposed amendments address the Land Use Committee's concern, and the proposed ordinance was reviewed and approved by the planning board at their October meeting. The staff recommendation tonight is to approve the amendments to the exterior commercial lighting ordinance. And of course, your approval will need to reflect the community plan. That's all I have.
Thank you, Michael. Our next item would be to open the public hearing to public comments. Do we have anyone who would like to make a public comment concerning the proposed ordinance? If they would like to make a comment, I invite you to come forward, state your name, and make your comment. Yes. Okay.
Jim Lewicki, co-owner of Highlands newspaper.
Okay.
I once a week come into town at about Thursday, about 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning. And the only one on the streets is a couple of delivery guys, myself, and the Highlands police. And this week I saw the sheriff. When I go in and see these low light Edison places, there's bears running around. And believe it or not, we have a lot of crackheads in this county, bad people. I served for a year and a half on the grand jury. I trapped on it for a year and a half because it was COVID. We processed minimum 300 to 400 crackheads with guns in Macon County. We processed some of the most vile pedophiles in waiting to catch little kids. People like this like dark shadows. When I'm out there delivering the papers and I have these dark places, I'm looking over my shoulder for a bear. And I now know, after being on the grand jury, there are more bad people than you can imagine. If you think I'm exaggerating, before you make these decisions, Bob Buchanan, plastic surgeon, served with me on that jury. Query him to see if I'm exaggerating. Call Brent Holbrook up, our sheriff. Ask him if I'm exaggerating. Ask Robbie Holland up, who's the chief of security for Macon County Schools. It would blow your mind. This isn't a question of, oh, it doesn't look aesthetic. People can get hurt. The lights that we have that are in this town, when I come in, they're not bothering anybody. They're lighting up dark shadow places where bad people hide. And I know a lot of people in the Highlands that go to bed at night and aren't out there think that this isn't possible. But it is. These kind of people want dark places to hide. That's all I have to say. And think carefully when you turn these lights off. Somebody's going to get hurt.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to make a public comment at this time? Hearing that there's no further public comment, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Second. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. The next item would be council action. So I'm open for a motion, discussion, whatever is the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Mayor, I have I'd like to, based on Mr. Lewicki's comments, I'd like to ask the police chief to give her opinion on
Okay.
dark spaces.
So without having any statistics in front of me, because I live off those, I don't know what the statistics are down in Franklin. I would imagine it's a lot worse up here. I will agree that dark spaces can be a breeding place for bad people to hide. I don't know that our call volume is that great with those. We've had a few calls. Some are legitimate, some are not. So without having any kind of documentation in front of me to prove or disprove what he's saying, I'm not comfortable giving a 100% opinion. I will agree that dark places can be a hiding for some. As far as your wording, crackheads, I don't think it's that prevalent up here from, I know we do have a problem, but it's a lot smaller than probably what you're talking about in Franklin with the cases probably you have seen. Correct. So I don't think we have that kind of problem, 300 or 400 cases like what you're talking about. So it's possible. Yeah, right.
And said true.
Correct. And I'm not arguing that. Obviously they do have a problem there that we don't see as prevalent up here. So I can get some statistics together for the issues we have here.
How many calls do you get about people lingering in dark places? I mean, how many calls do you get about a little lady that's seen a shadow and she's afraid, or that you have gotten a call, we have this suspect or that suspect that's hiding out behind this building because there are no lights, or nighttime calls?
We've had a few.
I guess, based on.
Right. We've had a few. I mean, probably maybe if I were to guess, maybe a couple every month or so. I think a lot, I think too, some of that is depending on how late the bars are. People are walking home. They're going to some of these addresses within walking distance. And I have had some calls from those situations. I've had calls where they've ended up on the wrong porch. But as far as giving you an exact number, it's hard to say. It's random. It's random calls
that are misguided in their directions. How many calls have you gotten? Ballpark.
I'll say 15 per year. Ballpark.
Of people that are actually.
And that's probably high.
Some sort of misdeed in the dark.
Relatively low.
Okay.
Relatively low. Okay. I'm not saying it can't happen though.
So what you want to do is turn the lights off?
No, not at all. Not at all.
If I understand this, like the restaurants that have Edison lights on and everybody, you want them to turn them off.
String lights.
String lights.
Yeah.
String lights.
String
But
lights.
nothing else.
Lights.
Tell me something. I love it because I'm out there looking over my shoulder. And I know the cops driving around, when they can see in the distance something like that, they like that.
Sure.
I can get some numbers if you need, but I will agree with you that light can be better, but then our call volume is not there, I don't think.
Certainly
I'm not
easier.
saying it won't be. There's a lot more people in town. So
Certainly easier to find a target in the daytime. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
if you didn't have lights, you wouldn't have dark spaces. It'd all be dark.
What's that, Amy?
I said, if you didn't have lights, it would all be dark. So you wouldn't have dark spaces. You wouldn't have people running around because there's no light at all. I'm not saying be all dark or all light. All I'm saying is I don't think the amount of string lighting that we're talking about
Yes.
right now
Couple places.
is significant. If you want more street lights, that's something else, Jim. So. I'll make the motion that we approve the changes to the exterior commercial lighting as presented.
Okay,
Second.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Amy, can you add a statement of consistency?
Oh, yeah, and
Okay.
that is
Cheers.
consistent with our community plan.
Community plan.
Okay, that's part of your motion, okay? Hearing that, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Also,
Okay,
Mayor, a question I had is, what do we do with the existing string lights over walkways?
They're non-conforming uses, aren't they?
We need to term them out.
No, I think they're non-conforming. You have to ask
No.
Bob, but I think they're non-conforming uses.
We did talk briefly to Bob about it, so.
Bob,
can you
your
give us
opinion?
Your opinion on that?
Yeah, Josh and Michael and I did talk about it. It's an interesting question, and it ties into what I know the commissioners are very familiar with, which is amortization. I tend to think about issues around amortization as amortizing a use. This is not affecting the use of the property. And while it's not 100% without doubt, I'm comfortable, legally, I'm comfortable if you choose to say that existing string lights have to be eliminated. Again, it's not an amortization of the use of the property. It's a tiny, tiny feature or aspect of the string lights. But I think you all can see the issue.
It's just the existing.
Do you want to vote on that?
Yeah, we might want to do that.
make a separate motion.
Yeah, I would make that as a motion that, you know, subject to January 15th or whenever all the rest of the lights have to come down, they should be down too.
That do
I
not
honestly-
conform with the ordinance.
And conform with the ordinance. I honestly think that our ordinance never allowed them the way they're being used now. But there was a loophole, and that's why we have them anyway.
Okay,
I'll second that.
and you'll second it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Thank you very much. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I oppose.
Oh, okay.
Thank you,
You
sir.
oppose, I'm sorry. I
That's,
didn't
that's all right.
see. Okay, one,
We agree on most things, but not everything.
okay, all right, very good. Okay, that concludes item number 8. Our next item is recognition of service for Commissioner Mark Haynes.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Haynes chose not to run for reelection. And I will just say this, anyone who's willing to put themselves up for public office and when elected, you know, dedicate so much time and effort to 4 years of being on this commission. We have our gratitude and appreciation. Although, of course, there've been times when we always didn't agree, but that's part of the process.
That's right.
But we do appreciate the service and commitment that you made, Mark. And I wanted to present on behalf of the town a plaque recognizing your service. Jonathan Mark Haynes. So I wanted to present this plaque.
Thank you.
And I will give you the floor for your farewell comments. if you'd
All
like to
right.
make them.
Well, first of all, my beautiful wife Betsy was considered to come tonight, and I appreciate everything she did. She's my biggest fan, my biggest supporter, sometimes my only supporter, and she's always been there for me. And I think Mayor and the town board, people don't thank you for what you do, but I do want to thank you. It is painful at times to be on this, and I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate Jeff. I appreciate you being willing to serve. Jeff and I both went to the College of Architecture at Clemson, and so I'm glad another Clemson fellow is taking my place. The employees, I didn't go to the employee party this year, but I wanted to tell them that I think it's amazing what our employees accomplish with the tools they've got to work with. I ran the largest county water and sewer and solid waste utility in South Carolina, and my employees were very well equipped. And I think it's amazing what our employees accomplish with what they've got to work with. I really do. And then Bob, I wanted to thank you. I think we're making great strides and improvements, and your influence is obvious. And I think you're doing a good job. My goal was to provide housing for healthcare workers. And Betsy and I sponsored a study that Clemson did, the College of Architecture plus Health. Jeff, you're familiar with that. The need's greater now than it was 4 years ago. And I think everybody knows that. And I won't repeat myself, but I think it is important to realize we've recruited 4 doctors to this area in the last 4 years, and 2 moved away. And I never wanted the town to raise taxes to build worker housing. My grandmother, I grew up in Anderson. We came here all my life. She'd always tell me how special this place was. And we would stand in her yard and she'd name the mountains. We'd go to I grew up a family that had owned the old police chief's house, and we'd stand on their hill and you could see Satula Mountain from Anderson. We've always known this was a special place. I think we made more progress in 2023, Mayor, than we did the previous 3 years. We dealt with COVID, and we really made progress this year. I think the town's future is very bright, and I wish you all the best and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Like this for 51 years. Mayor.
I understand.
Take care. Thank you. I thought my wife would be home now.
You might make
Yeah,
it.
it could be cool for a
Now we will move to new business, and the first item will be the swearing in of our newly elected town board members. And we're honored to have the clerk of the Macon County Superior Court here tonight, the Honorable Shauna Lamb. So I would ask Shauna to come up and administer the oath of office. And I think that we should start with, who's been the senior board member? I think we can do
Of
it.
the 3 of us, it's Buzz.
You want to do it all at once? We'll do that. Okay, so if y'all come,
Individual pictures, but
the newly elected sitting board members, and Jeff Weller, if y'all come up, we'll do it all at one time.
Big Bible.
Yeah,
Up front.
yeah, we got to go up front. Yes, right there. Son, if you'll stand right there, they'll face the camera right out here, Brian.
so Shauna, you face
Yep.
us.
I face y'all.
Yeah.
Yes.
There we
There you go.
We face this way.
Face that way.
Camera, you got to face the camera. Get out of the background.
Okay. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Brian Stevenson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my office as Commissioner.
of my office as Commissioner.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sean.
Shauna, thank you, and we got you out of here for 30 minutes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for
I
coming.
appreciate it. I'm honored to be up here.
Okay. Before we proceed, I'd like to have Jeff sit down. And I would just now, if either, any of the newly sworn in commissioners would like to make a comment, I'll open up the floor. Commissioner Dotson,
Merry Christmas.
Anybody.
Commissioner Steele.
I just want to note that I love Buzz's jacket and I look forward to this day every year just to see it.
And Commissioner Weller.
I hope to live long enough to make it happen again.
I just want to say I'm excited to be here and look forward to working with everybody. Was kind of wondering why you put the Pennsylvania boys at the left end separated from everybody, but we'll work on that later.
Okay.
But,
It's the accent.
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
We're open to rearrange.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
All right. Okay, very good. Now, our next item will be this item number 11, and that is the screening of board and committee applicants. And let me just give some background on this. You know, in the past, we've had, for example, like on planning board, we had committees like the land use committee that would screen the applicants and then make recommendations. Josh and I have been talking since we've gone to the workshop model. That doesn't work anymore. And we wanted to make sure that we had a good system to do the screening without, we have citizens who apply. We don't want to put them in a very difficult situation either. The way it works now, if someone wants to be considered for a committee like the planning board or the zoning board of adjustment, they fill out an application. We've received applications, especially for the planning board, and then they're reviewed and considered. So tonight we're making a new proposal for selecting those members. And for example, on the planning board, we have 7 members. Commissioner Weller can no longer serve on the planning board, so that is one opening. And also Wendell Willard, several weeks ago, he and his wife are moving from Highlands, and he submitted his resignation. So we have 2 openings. And in the past, we do a cycle of reconfirming our members of the planning board and so forth on a yearly basis. So in January, we'll have to be doing that. So you have in your packet tonight, a procedure where everyone, all the commissioners would receive the applications, a copy of the applications, and then there'd be a system where each commissioner would nominate or endorse applicants, and then the clerk would manage that process and tally it to determine who would be confirmed on these various boards, and we'd move from there. I'd like to maybe ask our town attorney, who was instrumental in kind of guiding us through this process, based on what other communities do in selecting people for these important, community committees. And Bob, would you kind of go over how we would be doing this?
Sure. And I'm looking at the proposal, which is on page 80 of your agenda.
Right.
And just kind of walking you through it. And again, there's nothing magical about the timeline on here. If you want to adjust it to suit your needs, that's certainly fine. But what we discussed and proposed is sort of a sequential process. First, the clerk will provide each of you with the actual application, so you know who's in consideration. And then you'd be asked to provide, under this proposal, no later than the Monday before your board meeting, a list of nominees. And you each would have the right to nominate 1 person per available seat. I will point out that those nominations are not secret. Your nomination form has to identify your name, who you are, and it is a matter of public record. The idea then is that the clerk compiles all of your nomination forms and tallies up the number of nominations that each applicant received. Presumably, anybody who receives at least 3 nominations has the support of a majority of the board. And I would expect that then at your board meeting, you would go ahead and just by simple motion, appoint all those that received 3 or more nominations. Now, if that fills all the vacancies, you're done. That takes care of the process. If there are still vacancies, for example, if there are 7 seats and 6 individuals receive 3 or more nominations and then are appointed, you have others who may have received nominations, but nobody's received 3. So you then move to an election process. And the idea is to take the individuals with the 2 highest number of nominations. So let's say that 2 of you nominated individual A, 2 of you nominated individual B, and 1 of you nominated individual C. What you would then do is vote on A and B, and the person who nominated individual C would then essentially cast a deciding vote between the individuals who both received 2 nominations. It gets a little bit more complicated if you have multiple seats still open, but there is a mechanism for doing that. There's also a mechanism for breaking ties, and we wrote into this proposal, for example, let's say that 1 individual received 2 nominations and 3 individuals received 1. Well, you don't have the clear 2 highest vote getters. So you would first vote to eliminate those who only received 1, and you would vote on each of those. If whoever had the lowest number of votes then would be dropped off. If there are still 2 tied, you'd vote on them, and that person would then go to the final selection against the individual who had 2 nominations. So it sounds confusing and complicated. It's really not, and I wouldn't anticipate that you're going to get into this sort of more complex situation very frequently. But if you do, certainly I'm available to help you walk through the process. I would not expect you all to have memorized it and clearly understand what to do. We would brief you up at the meeting once we know how many people have nominations.
And Bob, just to add to this, if we approve this, our clerk or our zoning administrator would be contacting all current board members on, for example, on the planning board to indicate, are you interested in continuing serving? And if they didn't, of course, that would be an open seat. And also, if they wanted to update their application, which they originally filled out, they would have that option too.
That's correct, Mayor.
So, question that you mentioned that the candidates would be, it would be like open information. Would this be done in a public meeting?
So what I contemplate is the nomination process would be done ahead of time with you filling out your forms and submitting those to the clerk. And again, the proposal here is give the clerk a few days. So get it to the clerk by Monday. And if one or more of you don't do it, I'm sure she'll reach out to you on Tuesday and say, hey, I really need your form, right? So that process is not done at a meeting, but that is not actually the selection, that's nominations. So at your Thursday meeting, after receiving those nominations, then you would be casting your votes, yes, at an official board meeting in open session.
My gut reaction to it is I don't necessarily like that, because there's a lot of people that want to serve, I think, but there's a lot of people too that don't want to be involved in any kind of like political type election process. And I think that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Bob, I thought the process would be that the clerk would tally the votes and report the numbers to where we wouldn't have to vote unless there was a problematic tie, or as you said, so many people didn't get the votes, then we would be put into that situation. But the votes would be tallied and it would be announced who received those 3 votes.
So Mayor, technically, you can't make official decisions other than at an official meeting. So again, let's say that 7 individuals are all nominated by all 5 of you. You would then, at your meeting, somebody would make a motion to appoint all of the individuals who received 5 nominations, or if some received 3.
Right.
Again, a majority of the board, unless somebody changes their mind, the assumption is that if you nominated somebody, you're going to vote for them. And whether those who nominated somebody else, if there's somebody who had 3 nominations, you can kind of see the handwriting on the wall. If you supported somebody else, you could still vote for them, or you can just recognizing and wanting to give unanimous support to individuals. You could all then vote to approve by consensus or by acclamation the following individuals.
Or to put it another way, the mayor could announce that so many people received the minimum 3 or more votes. Do I have a motion to approve these candidates? That would be an official public action, correct?
Exactly.
So we're not sitting here casting votes
No.
then? Okay.
The
I just want to make sure.
The votes would have been cast, and then we would announce it. If there was some kind of discussion about it, certainly we'd have to have it. But I would then call for a motion to approve based on those votes that these people will be appointed to the board.
So Mayor, the additional thing I'll point out, there is nothing to prevent each of you talking one-on-one with your colleagues and sort of lining up support if you have a preferred candidate ahead of the nomination process. And if you kind of do that legwork ahead of time, you may informally have achieved consensus so that it would minimize any kind of actual vote between 2 or more individuals.
As long as it was one-on-one, not
Correct.
grouping, meeting as a group. Okay, gotcha.
Correct.
Brian, does that?
Yeah, I think that answer, yeah, as long as it's the way you described, I just don't want to make it awkward for people that have no interest in any kind of,
Okay.
whether how small the election is or not.
Well, I will say this, Eric, those committee deliberations, that too becomes a public record. Am I not right?
Meeting's there, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Okay,
They're just more productive, I think.
okay. All right, any other questions?
So do we have to vote on this?
I think we need to call for a motion to codify this as the procedure that we will follow.
Okay, I'll make a motion that this is the procedure we'll follow. To appoint
The voting
the
process
committee
as outlined.
Zoning board and the planning board.
Okay. All right,
I'll second that
have a
motion.
second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your hand saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, we're all, okay, very good. By the way, I asked people to raise their hand and I was saying, why do I do that? Because we're doing video. Anybody that's tuning in, that gives them a clear idea of how we vote. Okay, thank you, Bob. We appreciate it. And we'll start that without delay because I'd like to see the planning board and the zoning board, all of those positions filled as soon as possible at the beginning of the year. But I would still encourage any citizen who would like to apply. We have the applications at Town Hall. Okay, the next item would be financial matters. And Josh Ward, will you review the financial matters that we have?
So to give a little background, the pool heater went out. I guess it was probably 6-8 weeks ago, Lester. We had some trouble getting a company in to come in and analyze it to see what was wrong with it. When we finally did that, they realized that it was 10 years old, it was aging. It's hard to work on the unit. The unit was I think a 1 million BTU unit. Some suggestions were made to add a system that would have 2, if not 3 units. That way, if one went down, you still have at least 1, if not 2 operating. We got some quotes on that. We were going back and forth. We're going to bring it to the board to have a budget amendment done to repair that or replace it. And Richard Delaney called, and Art and Angela had, I think Art lap swims up there a lot in the mornings, and he had wanted to donate some funding to this need. So they donated $30,000. We ended up getting another company in to give us a quote. It ended up being that we couldn't use 3 heaters, but we could use 2 with what we had, the duct system and stuff that we had, which is great. They come in and they hooked that up within 2 days. I think the total on that was $39,000 and change. So basically tonight it's recognizing the funds that the Williams gave, which is the $30,000. The $9,000 and change will basically come from what's already budgeted from the pool maintenance fund. So I just wanted to kind of give a background on that and say a thank you to the Williams for donating the funds.
And let me add to that, because I was tracking this with Lester and Josh, and we were hustling and everything, but we were still struggling. And Richard Delaney and the Williams came in. They have experience in this, and they really helped us move very quickly to get the pool temperature back up to the temperature that all the people, the aerobics people, everybody expects, especially this time of the year. And Josh, give a report. You've already tested the system by using one heater. And what temperature can it maintain?
Right. So the pool, the water got down to about 70 degrees, Lester, 72 degrees. And so the lap swim continued, but the aerobics and some of the other stuff quit till the repair was made. They came in and they hooked both heaters up. They were having issues with one. So on one heater, it warmed it back up to the 82 degrees that was needed. So they finally came in, had to replace the part on the heater and got it going. So both heaters are going right now, but if something happens to one of them, the one heater can keep the pool temperature up to where it needs to be.
Okay.
So you're running them simultaneously
Yes.
rather than
Running cycle.
alternatively? Okay.
So it's a better system than what we had just with the one large one. So it was near the end of its life. They said probably 3 years if they did a repair, and the repair was really expensive on it. So
Okay, so we need go ahead, two motions, I
I was
think.
gonna say, you want me to make a motion?
no, just one motion.
For the,
Okay,
budget amendment?
and to recognize the donation in the budget.
Yeah, the budget, right.
Okay,
So
would you make the motion?
I did.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Thank you very much. Very good. And we're now, unless there's any further discussion, at the end of the agenda. Thank you, Bob, for joining us. And I have a request that we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you and have a great Christmas and holiday.
Jeff, welcome.
Is that your iPad?